So we have, okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Beaver Boardwalk Community Oversight meeting for May 15th, 2024. Let's start off with our land acknowledgement that the town of Hinton respectfully acknowledges that it is located on the First Peoples traditional lands. We recognize the traditional territory to show respect and understanding to those who walk this land since time immemorial. Today, we uphold our ongoing responsibility to work together in the spirit of the intent of the treaties with all the First Peoples and nations that call this place home. The town expresses gratitude for the opportunity to build a better community on these sacred lands for generations to come. With that, move on to agenda. Looking for, is there any additions or deletions to the agenda committee? Administration?
I thought I had one, but I actually see it's 5.1. I already put it on you.
All right.
That's what
Okay, excellent. So I look to then approve that agenda. Anyone want to make that motion? First?
I motion to approve the agenda.
All right. Excellent. We'll call the question then. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, George. Then on to our adoption of the meeting minutes for April 10th. Did anybody see anything missing or anything changes needed to those minutes? Seeing none, I look for someone to approve those.
Have a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Trevor. All right. And with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is to carry unanimously. Thanks, everybody. So on to our action items, 3.1. We're going to talk about the wayfinding map adoption. And then next, the trail naming. So, Heather?
Okay, just want to share my screen. All right, so you guys had asked for the map to, is that zoomed in enough? Should I say a little bit more? Too much. Just slightly less. I'm wearing glasses. Okay, close enough. All right, so Beth did note that up towards Mountain where the yellow line, this trail here goes off towards Mountain, I forgot to show the entrance here as well as over at Reimer. So I'm gonna go ahead and add those back in. Those will stay as part of the yellow. So that's where you're gonna enter, that's your longest loop. You can access all the other loops from the yellow loop. So I would go ahead and add those back for consistency. Other than that, I'm just waiting for you guys to approve the map.
Hi, Beth.
Hi.
So when you,
That's gonna smell like duck poop.
oh, that's a, all right. So we're just on 3.1 and Heather was just mentioning your comments about the the Mountain Street access. So that was an oversight on Heather, that there should be lines or white or yellow lines at the Reimer Drive and the southern one as well to create that consistency, because it did look, so that we're going to add to the map. And then we'll get to the naming after, so second action. So is there any other matters of the map, as is with the addition, of course, to those entry points, but anything else the committee would like to speak to? Questions about? Yes.
I was just wondering, I mean, it's okay, but is the Beaver feeding location a bit wordy? Like, could you just put picnic tables there? And then when people ask, where do you see the beaver feeding? You say, oh, just go to the picnic tables.
when you say wordy, are you talking that's in the legend?
Yeah,
I think for me. My personal thoughts are, when you say beaver feeding with nothing else, we don't want people feeding the beavers. And it's gotta be clear that we don't want them feeding, we want contractors feeding them. Cause
right,
if you just have beaver feeding, then people might go and head out and feed them whatever.
I agree, what
Yeah.
I'm saying is just get rid of all that wording and just put picnic tables. And then when visitors say, well, you could tell them when they come that time of year, you could just say, oh, they're being fed at the picnic tables. But I don't know if that works or not.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because if they're not talking to anybody, they won't know, right? But this is something we want them to be able to see and know what's there. And then they know, hey, this is a beaver feeding place, oh, we'll hang out there and stuff. If they see picnic tables, they won't know that unless they're a local, right? So,
Or you're told,
or you're told,
Yeah.
right? Heather, you shot your hand up there?
Yeah, I was just going to mention something similar, just that we don't typically have staff out there, like it's not programmed in for like, you know, we call it interpretive guide that stands out there and could be telling people this consistently, and it would be, I know I would get poor feedback from the rest of administration, the communications department, if I removed
Mhm.
the information that a person needs in order to engage with that space.
Right. And they might learn that at the visitor center, if the voting visitor center. right?
If
So-
they go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments on the map? Oh, sorry.
Just specifically for that beaver feeding station, do you know if there is a infographic up there?
Currently, if there's a sign there,
Yeah.
I
Just
don't think so, no.
Explain it.
No, but we are gonna put one, when we do, it's part of our wayfinding signage,
Mhm.
that's included, yeah,
Like with things right up.
exactly,
Top.
yeah.
Cool.
Great. Anyone else on the map itself, the trails? Colors are good? That's the colors that we're gonna use?
No, they're gonna be,
Oh, okay.
they're gonna be put through, we have this thing that tells us what you can use for different color blindness.
Oh.
So comms will do all that for me.
Illustration. Okay,
Yeah, so,
yeah,
and I feel bad bringing it up without Kelly being here. She was the one who made the motion last meeting, but I feel like there's a lot of duplication between magenta and blue. Trails.
And then Denver.
Yes, right.
yeah. Well, and I think that would be flushed out with the color blindness thing.
I just meant, like, it's,
No, he's saying
more or less the same.
Oh, I see,
except for Happy Creek.
right.
yeah,
Mhm. So we want like making sure they're distinct, different colors.
No, I think
Oh.
they're saying that
I'm
like
sorry.
potentially, that if pink is Beaver Lodge Loop, that potentially this is not included. Cause this is really,
Oh,
right, he's saying I think there's too much duplication of blue and pink,
oh, I got you.
yeah. Do whatever you guys want.
It was Kelly's motion, though, so
it's what,
Kelly made the motion to change the
Oh.
magenta line to that last meeting, so I.
Well, And maybe I guess if I recall the reasoning is because that's a separate loop. That might get confusing because it's if you start this blue. And or the pink. Kind of want people to know you're doing the blue trail,
Mhm.
and if you remove that or the pink. Then you'd have to be, this is the blue and the pink, right? Like, if we're naming it, or am I off base? So maybe I'm not catching what you're saying.
It's not so much about the color, but just pink is basically the blue trail, just without this leg here.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, like,
oh, yeah, I see, sober now.
so like almost what Heather suggested was just keep the pink away from the west side.
That
Yeah.
option,
Just not
yeah.
include that. The pink is directly everything right around the Beaver Lodge, and that's it.
Yeah,
Hence the name Beaver Lodge.
Or
Yeah.
Ponds, I like,
sorry, Heather, you nailed it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So we're all here.
Well, and if I may, it was a direction of the group, but this is the actual adoption of it, so we're okay with making changes. I mean, yeah, it'd be nice if Kelly was here, but she's not, so. And we do have to approve this
Yeah.
evening, to get things moving, so. So is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we amend the map to how Trevor and Heather are explaining it.
Yeah. So remove pink from the west,
The West Wing.
sure, that works for me.
Oh, I'm supposed to be ready.
Yeah, you're doing that.
Oh, it's from V and U, yeah, you can do it that way, you can do it by section.
That's the old man. Or.
Remove B and U from pink, right?
Remove pink from V and U,
Remove B and U from pink.
same thing.
Then why are you thinking?
Okay, so. We're removing the paint from B and U, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Is everybody clear on what that is gonna look like then?
Yeah.
Yeah? Any, with that motion, any questions or comments on the motion? Sure.
I think that just makes it. Good change of size and loops, we got like. Extra small. A little bit bigger, Maxwell Lake loop, or cyan is pretty big, and yellow is, if you wanna go for. A nice small one.
Mhm.
I think that gives a lot of different size options.
Mhm.
I agree.
Great. So if there's no other comments, I'll call that the question then, that we're moving the paint from B and U. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously, all right. I just have a quick question, because I know that we talked about it before, and the red dots are gonna be closer,
Yeah.
correct, in the final version?
I'm gonna have Mindy do the red dots, the distances, and all that with the last version.
Okay,
And then that'll go out to the public, but what I'll do is, once she has it, I'll send it to you guys by email.
thank
Just
you.
you can get another set of eyes on it, because it'll still take our. Sign building people a little while.
Right. And. On that note, though. Would we like to do a. When we get the final, then we do just an email vote as a. Yay or nay, just,
Triple check, yeah.
just in case, because if there's something that's missed or whatever, or we can even just do it that way, that everybody's good with it, and if you have any. Yeah, so that there's any discrepancies or whatever, then we'd have to talk more, but yeah, as long as everybody's comfortable with that.
I'd rather just do it now.
Well, and that's fine, but I think we should see the final draft before an email form. And
Yeah, I
I'm
want-
comfortable with the same thing, but it's just if there was something that pops up in the final draft, but I think we need to see that.
Okay, we're not adopting the map tonight.
No, adopt
Yes,
it, I'm gonna get it all, like, I'll put everything in there, and then it's just double checking my work to make sure I haven't forgotten anything.
Yes.
Before I send it off to pay for signs, and then have to repay for signs.
so is there any other motions to change anything that this evening before we adopt the final? Is there any other changes anybody sees necessary? Like to move? So seeing none. We'd have to then have someone adopt the wayfinding map as amended this evening.
Oh,
Go ahead, Beth.
just, sorry, what, and we're doing the names after?
Yes,
Okay.
that's a separate action item. Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the wayfinding map as amended.
Right. Excellent. Then we have a motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, then I'll call the question that we're. Have a motion to move to adopt the wayfinding map as amended this evening. All those in favor? And that is heard unanimously. Okay, so we're gonna move on then to the trail naming now. If I may, Kelly did share some thoughts, and I was gonna share Beth, but Beth is here. So I just thought I'd share Kelly's thoughts and capture those in the meeting, and I know she sent everybody an email. But her recommendations for naming And how do you want to do this, Heather? How do you want to do the name? Do we want to take a,
I think it's a good opportunity for example, read what Kelly's thoughts were. I know Beth had some thoughts. Let everybody kind of speak to their piece and then we can go color by color.
okay,
And while you guys do it.
okay. So Kelly proposed that the yellow line, I'm assuming, is the outer loop. And then the pink would be, I'm assuming, the Beaver Lodge loop. And then the Creek loop or Happy Creek loop would be the blue. And then the Maxwell Lake loop, of course, is the light blue, whatever that color is around the Maxwell Lake. That was her thoughts and suggestions on the names. Beth, you wanna,
I'll go with mine, sure.
yeah, please.
What was called the outer loop was this yellow, I would just call that the forest loop. I think it was just called the creek loop, I would call that Happy Creek loop. Like I would stay with the proper names as much as possible. Maxwell Lake loop is great. And then I would say Beaver Pond loop rather than Beaver Lodge loop.
Oh, okay,
And then you've got all the environment, you got forests and ponds and lakes and creeks.
okay, so if you could just, so the yellow one, you were saying what name?
Forest loop,
Forest loop, okay. And the, you said the Maxwell Lake one is Maxwell Lake,
yeah,
and then the Beaver Pond.
Yeah.
And what was the other one?
Happy Creek loop.
The Happy Creek, so that was the same as Kelly.
Yeah, instead of
Okay.
just Creek loop, but Happy Creek.
Yeah, she had Creek and then she in parentheses had Happy
Oh, okay.
Creek, so, yeah. So
Yeah.
she had same line of thinking, so, okay. All right, so we've got some suggestions from Kelly and from Beth. Anyone else that have any thoughts on the names? We've had a month to think about it, and maybe even have some conversations with our neighbors and friends. Sure.
Yeah, I agree. I like the Maxwell Lake Loop. I think it's a good one. Yeah, Beaver Lodge Loop. I like that one too. Happy Creek, that one works for me too, to have a Creek Loop. And then for the bigger one, I just like I think Trevor mentioned it too. Like I feel like it's more of a excursion sort of thing. Like just 4 loops in on a sign seems like a little redundant. So I wrote down a few, and I know like Beth, you mentioned it used to be like the Fen Trail sort of thing.
Just the one part of it, so I just thought. That's only a small part of the loop, so I thought, why not just the forest loop? It's pretty much through forest.
Yeah, so I had written down a few just like called the Fen Forest, so like the Fen Forest Trek or like the Fen Forest Tour maybe. Fen Forest Quest, just like, you know, a little more of an adventure to do that loop sort of thing.
Can you come up with 3 Fs though?
I was trying, I synonyms so much last night, but yeah.
Frolic.
Frolic.
Fen Forest Ramble, Fen Forest Wander.
Fen Forest Frolic.
And then, yeah, the Happy Creek one, I like that too, like the only other option I had for that one was like the Happy Creek Trip or the Happy Creek Catwalk, but I think the Happy Creek is pretty good too.
Okay,
Catwalk. Meow.
Showed up in the synonyms, I was looking at, that's a decent name.
okay. So we've got some options there, some that we're agreeable on, that I've heard from some. Just to clarify, George, we have Beaver Pond, Beaver Lodge. Any thoughts on the Beaver Pond versus Beaver Lodge?
I like the Beaver Lodge as far as saying it, but
Hmm.
when Beth mentioned, you know, you got the stream and the
Mhm.
lake and the creek and the pond, maybe pond does sound better that way then.
Yeah, it's a creek, lake, pond.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you have, yeah, I like the, either way, Beaver Lodge, Beaver Pond, I'm good with both those.
Okay. Sterling, Trev, Jan, any names that you conjured up?
I've got a list of recommendations from people I chatted with.
Okay,
So I'll just go through each color
yeah,
and then I'll speak on it. Yellow was Explorer Way, Woodland Way, Outer Loop was popular, Fen Trail was also popular. I like Beth's Forest Loop or a combo of Forest Fen Forest. So
Hmm.
I'm for the Fen Forest or a mixture of either one. Cyan color was Duck Trail or Maxwell Lake Loop, that seemed to be the preferred, was Maxwell Lake Loop.
Okay.
Magenta, Beaver Creek Circuit, Beaver Lodge Loop or Lane, Beaver Way, Beaver Boulevard, Lodge Loop. So obviously Beaver something is the main theme. I like that suggestion as well. The Beaver Pond Loop would be my pick. Blue, Happy Creek Loop and Creek Loop those seem to be just fitting. So I would go with Happy Creek Loop. And then there's other general name suggestions. Aspen Alley, Spruce Street, Mallard Way, and Pine Promenade. I don't,
Pine Promenade.
Good.
that was impressive. Come on the edge of them.
Okay,
So yeah, those. Just chatting with people in the community, and those would be my picks. Seems to be common with Jordan Beth.
okay. Perfect, thanks, Joe. Really, any thoughts, names?
I think they're all good.
Yeah. I gotta, if I may comment on some of these, I really like that Woodland Way. I don't know why, but it just, you know, it's the two W's, it's the woodland, it's, and I like. The adding the Beaver Pond Lane rather than loop. I don't know, it just seems. I like
They don't
that
all need to
word.
say
They don't need to all say
No,
loop,
not at all.
right? So I just, you know, it's a Beaver Pond, it's, yeah, I like the lane part, Maxwell, I'm good with Maxwell because it's logical that that's that Maxwell. Happy Creek, but those are my thoughts. I mean, I like Fen Forest. I don't know, when you said Woodland Way, that seems to spark for me, so. What are your rest of your thoughts on it? We had a few other options to consider, yeah.
No offense, but I would stick to the Fen,
Okay,
just because it already does have a history of people calling it the Fen Trail.
sure.
And people have probably heard less the word fen than more the word woodland, so this way they're getting a little bit of like, what's a fen?
Okay. And I think if I made the Fen Forest Trail, because it's a longer one, that's kind of, I don't know, that seems like a trail more to me than a loop.
Yeah.
You know, it is the longest one, so I don't know if that makes sense, but. Okay, any other thoughts on the names?
Offensive.
Go offensive?
Go offensive?
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we start then we'll start with the longest one, the yellow one. And what we need is someone to put forward a motion of a name. Yeah,
I
please.
think it might be a little bit easier if we start with the ones that I feel like everybody has
Okay.
a common idea of, like maximum,
Fair enough.
and then we'll maybe save the debate for the end.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, all right, so then let's start, a good suggestion, thanks, Heather. Let's start with the blue then. There seemed to be an appetite for the Happy Creek. Anyone want to? Okay, Jared,
I'll make a motion to start the discussion. I'd like to make a motion to name the blue loop Happy Creek Loop.
okay. Thanks, Trevor. All right, group, so we have a motion to name the blue.
We're doing these each one individually as a
Individual.
motion.
Yeah.
They're trying to kill me here? Why
No.
can't we do it in one?
Okay, tell you what,
Oh,
we could do consensus
Okay,
and do that and then do a motion afterwards of all of them.
that's
Is
what
that
I have it written down as
right?
presented, and then I have each color, and I'm just
Okay.
putting the name beside it.
So we can do that. Yeah, so we can look for consensus on each and then we'll do an
I
official
can't
vote.
believe that we're not gonna have consent.
Okay, so we're looking for consensus. Any discussion on the name Happy Creek Loop for the blue?
I like it.
You like it?
I like it.
Okay, so then move to look for consensus that be the name for the blue. Okay, so all those in favor? Okay, so that's not an official motion yet, that's just looking for consensus, so we're good with that one. Then we'll move on to the pink. There, the Beaver Pond, what comes after that, you know, is up to whoever makes the vote. Looking for consensus on, but George?
Yeah, I like the sound of the Beaver Pond Lane, I think was
Mhm.
sounded good.
Okay. All right,
Beth has her hand up.
It's not a lane, no, it's a boardwalk. So,
yeah,
it's more like a beaver pond walk or something, you know, like. It's not very, it's the shortest one, I think.
Headway,
and I think,
Beaver Pond Headway.
No.
I guess for
Downtown
me,
town.
when I hear lane, I hear shorter. I guess is what I conjure up in my mind is it's not a trail, it's not a loop, it's a lane and it's just a short little look at the beavers, but. That's kind of where I was at with that, with the word lane, and I don't know, it just seemed to fit with the beaver, I don't know, but that's just my thought on it, again, this is looking for consensus. So, but we do have that, so. If we have any other. Thoughts on the consensus and switch forward? Beaver Pond Lane.
I need a source.
Source.
Yeah, I
We have
actually
one.
was going to look up too, to kind of.
Google it.
I mean, I guess maybe the decision here is we're gonna end them all with loops, or are we just gonna mix and match as we please? So
Yeah,
that's really maybe,
Cause if that's the case, I think. Like that Beaver Pond loop is more of a loop than the Happy Creek is a loop. But that's just me and I,
They're all loops.
technically, yes,
Mhm.
you're right.
I actually, I don't want any of us to die on this hill.
no,
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 So, I actually was thinking of keeping them all loops, because that's what people are gonna call them. Like,
Okay.
I'm going to do the pink loop, I'm gonna go, you know, whatever.
Mhm.
I just don't think that they're gonna be saying, and I'm gonna go do Candy Cane Lane.
Yeah.
fair enough, okay.
I would agree with that.
So we have two options, we can just not see consensus, or there is no consensus on this one. Or George, if you wanna, it's your consensus, if you would like to make an adjustment to it.
So then we were thinking they all end with loop.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't like that. I think it looks boring on a sign. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Like, I mean, yeah, everyone,
Okay, so,
Again, it's a hill I'm not gonna die on.
yeah.
it doesn't matter to me. If you wanna go loops, I'm okay with that too. I just,
I think people, if I may, people are gonna call them what they wanna call them, loop or lane or whatever, but I think officially it just being catchier for me.
Mhm.
I like the lane, and it might catch on and people start doing that, right? So those are my, and I think having them different. Like trails and whatever, that's just me though. So why don't we then seek consensus for leaving it as the Beaver Pond Lane and see where that lands?
I'm just wondering if a lot of people actually knew that it was called a Beaver Lodge. Right, so Beaver Lodge Lane, as opposed to Beaver Pond Lane, but again, not the
Oh.
long that. Cause I always thought that the Beaver Dam was where they lived before I started this entire project, to be completely honest,
Hmm,
yeah.
I mean, but I've been there, only thistles and the public goes by and I'm standing right in front of the lodge, where's the Beaver Lodge? So then that was enough to me for interpretation, so
Mhm.
you're not gonna. Like at some point, we do need more interpretation, like people were looking right at it and they didn't even know it was the lodge, so the name won't mean anything either. You know, so it was great, we had a great discussion, they were all interested in whatever, so.
I just wonder, like, what are people going there to see, like, if we're thinking they're going there to see the lodge, right? Or are they going there to try and see a beaver, maybe, I don't know, but I'm good with either, I was just.
Yeah.
Beaver Lodge Lanes.
I agree with that too. Cause I think everyone thinks of like Maxwell Lake as a beaver pond,
right,
Mhm.
whereas the lodge is like the loop around their house, like, yeah, it makes sense.
so you say lodge sounds better than pond.
I do like it better.
Okay, so let's see consensus on this one and then we'll see where it lands. So. All those in favor of it being the Beaver Pond Lane? All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, that one is not consensus, so. You wanna take another stab at it?
All right, let's try Beaver Lodge Lane.
Beaver Lodge Lane, okay. All right, so I think we kind of already spoke to this, everyone, so. Gonna see consensus for the blue loop, or the pink loop, sorry, to be the Beaver Lodge Lane. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, consensus is then achieved. Okay. All right, so let's go to the. What color Trip called it? But- Cyan, thank you.
That was great
I'm
colors, I
I'm not a color person, so,
Okay.
that's a light blue.
New.
So next is the cyan with the surrounding the Maxwell Lake area. We've had some suggestions of Maxwell Lake Way, but anyone want to make or see consensus for a specific name on this one? Sure.
I'll see consensus for Maxwell Lake.
Okay. Great. So we have Maxwell Lake Loop seeking consensus. Any discussion?
Yeah, I like that one. I feel like Kelly liked that one too.
Okay. Seeing no discussion on it, then I'll move to see consensus that the cyan color loop be the Maxwell Lake Loop. All those in favor? And that is carried with consensus. Okay, so we're on to our now fourth area, which is the yellow line. We've had a few different options here, but anyone like to see consensus for a name for this area?
I'll see consensus for Fen Trail.
Any discussion on thoughts on the Fen Trail option then?
I mean, I think it's more forest than fen, so I'd go with forest trail. Whatever, forest loop, forest trail, yeah.
One, go.
I like the second word being trail. It's a lot longer of a route, a lot more, I'll say rugged, so I think it's calling it a trail versus a loop. It's appropriate, whatever the first word.
Young?
There was an idea put forward at some point for Fen Forest Trail. Forest Fen Trail or something,
The
try to accommodate everyone.
absolutely. George had mentioned his idea is the Fen Forest Trail.
I just said one, just to. We could cross it off.
Fair enough, yeah. Okay,
It's just hard to say yes if there's gonna be some other person putting, yeah.
Heather?
I have a question for Beth. Beth, did you say that people used to kind of walk around there and to go to the fen? Like that's what they were?
Well, it's called the Fen Trail, but we're not doing this for locals. I thought this map was for visitors. You might as well just call it
But it's
whatever.
also about education. So like if the
Yeah.
fen is over here, I'm wondering if forest to fen trail.
No, not to Fen Trail, just forest, if you have to, forest Fen Trail.
Okay.
Yeah, don't put forest to, that doesn't make sense to me.
But I think it's a good, because if you've got a name in there that people don't know, visitors then learn, like you said, right? And if it's Fen, whatever it's gonna be, then people go, what is the Fen? And then you get an opportunity to share that local history with someone that doesn't, right? So. Okay, so let's see what the group feels on Fen Trail. All those in favor seeking consensus for Fen Trail? Sterling, Trev, two, all those opposed? All right, so that's defeated, no consensus on that one. Anyone else have a name for, they'd like to propose? Jan?
Fen Forest.
Fen Forest Trail, okay.
How about track instead of trail? That sound any better?
Sounds like an over exaggeration.
Well, it's the biggest loop though.
You know, small.
Yeah.
Again, Hill, I'm not gonna.
No, I'm not either. I'm just wondering if the track sounds better than trail.
I like trail, actually, because it, to me, a trek is like over the mountains and
Like a trail, a track is like,
it's
Is the-
multi-day.
you know, the adventure, the.
Off-roading, off-trail.
A backpack.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
No,
Well, if you wanna pack up a big backpack, you go around the street,
I'm making that loop, man.
have a, you can.
And most people won't do the whole thing anyway, they'll get partway around and
I
then
think
cut
that
all
works.
off.
But again, I'm not gonna die on any of this stuff. I want this to move on.
Fair enough.
So,
All right,
so what did you put for
I
it?
put Fen Forest Trail,
Trail.
but I can easily amend it to Fen Forest
No,
Trail.
I'm good with trail.
okay. Any other thoughts? Then we will then look for consensus on Fen Forest Trail for the yellow loop. All those in favor? And that is carried, so we have consensus. So we've achieved consensus on all 4 loops. I do have a question. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
Can I just go over them?
Yes,
Yellow Fen Forest Trail, cyan, Maxwell Lake Loop, blue, Happy Creek Loop. Pink, Beaver Lodge Lane.
yes.
I actually voted against that, but it doesn't matter.
No, I think this is consensus, so yeah,
that's-
yeah,
it
that's
doesn't
right.
matter. Yeah, I'll go with that.
I just have one question before we bring that to the motion. Is these trails and the wayfinder signs also gonna have the length?
Yeah.
To them, so they'll have the kilometers on?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I assume that, but I just wanted to clarify that, because. Excellent. All right, so with that, then I look for someone to make the motion with the names we've have consensus with.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the Wayfinder Trail naming as presented, the yellow Fen Forest Trail, cyan, Maxwell Lake Loop, blue, Happy Creek Loop, magenta, Beaver Lodge Lane.
That's the motion. I can get that.
Excellent. Thank you, Jan. All right, so we have a motion. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, then I'll call to question that we adopt the Wayfinder trail names as read into the minutes. All those in favor? Opposed? No, okay, that is carried unanimously, so. Excellent, everybody, that's great. Now we can get moving on getting the Wayfinder signs put together and get them up into that area. So thank you for all that work. Thank you too for those that put some thought and got some feedback from the community. That's great to hear. Okay, so with that, we are moving on to 4.0 information items. 4.1 committee transition administrative representative. So Heather, I'm going to hand that to you.
Thank you. So I have been sitting with this committee for almost 5 years. And in discussions with my director, I need to be focused more on our work within the wetland area. So starting in September, CAO will be replacing me on the committee. I will still be available to you guys to provide any updates about anything going on out at Maxwell Lake, but I won't be here on a regular basis, attending all the meetings, putting everything together for you guys. So it's likely going to be Director Juke coming to that. Guys, most of you guys have met her. And she will attend, or whoever the replacement is, most likely her, will be attending the June meeting just to get introductions. And then I'll make sure that she's aware of anything that was left in the pipeline. And then she'll take it from there. So I just wanted to let you guys know I'll be here for June, and then we have our summer break. And then you'll have a different admin rep in September. So.
Okay. Good. Well, on behalf of, I know I've only been part of this for less than a year, but you know, we've been phenomenal in this position and moving forward to where we're at now. So we'd be missed, but yeah, Ms. Juke will fill your shoes. So thank you.
I'll be around, I'm fine.
Excellent.
Good work, Heather.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, then we have 5.0 closed session. We have a motion to move into closed session, please. Sterling makes that motion.
I move that we move to closed session.
Thank you. All those in favor? That is carried. Unanimously. All right, everybody. So then we're on to roundtable. Sterling, anything for roundtable?
Not really, I just, when I've gone around the boardwalk, you can see a lot of beavers and ducks now.
Yeah. Spring is here, eh? So awesome. Thanks, Sterling. Trevor?
Nothing to add, thanks a lot, Heather, it's been a pleasure working with you the last few years. Yeah.
Okay. Jan?
I'll ditto the same remarks for Heather.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, but it's fine. I can take it.
But I would like to bring forward the notion of this committee. Tonight or start tonight or whatever, but starting to have some conversations about future endeavors that this committee wants to do, especially with news coming out and how that's going to change stuff. So I think maybe it's time for us to sit down and talk about what kind of projects we might want to undertake as a committee. I don't know if there's any other words I'm looking for other than projects, but that's the general idea. I'll even go one step further and I'd say that I know that some people that were on previous committee were looking for more hands-on type work and stuff. That's what they thought they were getting into, as opposed to sitting around the table arguing. So yeah, maybe we can start thinking of stuff like that as well. So I just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah.
So Jan's absolutely right. The bulk of this work of the committee has been, working on how wide each section should be, what needs to be repaired. But there are other pieces of the terms of reference at the last appendix that talks about programming, right? And that includes things like thistle pulls or the actual work, right? That people hands-on stuff that people thought they were going to be participating in. So I think we're approaching the correct time to start having those conversations. So we did see your email and Councillor Haas and I, we're going to add that for a discussion item at the next meeting. So if everybody can just kind of review that, the objectives, right, of the terms of reference, and that appendices that kind of talks about what the committee was set out to do and what the parameters of that are, that would help give you guys some guidance on how that discussion goes in June.
Okay. And if I may speak, I think this is, I think great timing because we are taking a break over the summer, but having this, further discussion, almost as if I can use the term, kind of a mini strat planning as to moving forward coming September, and as Heather mentioned, in terms of reference, there are some things in regards to programming and other matters of that. So I think that's a great opportunity to start having the wrap our head around that. Plus we'll have Ms. Juke here joining us in June. So she's new and we can have some, and she may have some ideas as well, fresh ideas that maybe we just haven't thought about. So I think that's a reasonable request for our June, definitely our June meeting. Any other thoughts on Jan's proposal?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I got a list of stuff written down. We should start working on some.
Okay, so that's good. I mean, we can share that tonight, but if we're all in agreement that if we wanna, everyone walk away and have that thought and review the terms.
Yeah.
And then June, we come in, guns blazing and share those ideas. I think that's fantastic. And then over the summer, Ms. Juke and I can then meet and start planning ahead into what we bring in September, so. Excellent. Okay. Jan, anything else?
No, I've been on the area a lot with the dogs and it's nice to see the return of all the birds and bees. Stuff.
Awesome. Okay. Chad? Nothing, okay? George?
Yeah, I think we're heading the right direction. I mean, it feels like with this announcement coming out, it'll be good. We'll get some new programming going out there, and then we're chatting through working this summer on fixing some stuff, and then the winter plan, like, yeah, I think we're heading the right direction, so. Yeah, everyone I've been talking to is liking it. I've had a few suggestions just around people, like I'm just talking about what needs to be done with Beaver Boardwalk. There's a few things, I don't know where I'd bring this up with like the parking lot. They're talking about like we should get a crosswalk from the parking lot over. I don't know if that's like something I'd bring up in a meeting or something, or how that works, but
It
it's come up a
is.
few times.
That would be something that as a Beaver Boardwalk Oversight Committee, it's making recommendations to council. So
Okay.
if this group, you know, we were to add that to and have that conversation, then a report could be then done by administration to bring to council as a recommendation from this group. So yeah, okay, yeah. No,
It's a little bit off topic, is that allowed?
sure.
One of the people around this table is the host of a podcast called Wilderness Wave.
Yeah.
I
I'm
thought I'd
down.
just bring that up because we are wilderness related, and maybe we can talk that podcast into, how podcaster into having a
Yeah.
session about the.
Let's do a live podcast. Yeah, I
But you
definitely
should
want,
check out the podcast, Wilderness Wave.
I want to talk to everyone about, like, I want to talk to Heather too about her situation and everything, but yeah, I'd love to have an episode just dedicated to the Beaver Boardwalk. It'd be good.
So I just stumbled across it by accident. I was like, I know that guy.
No, I actually, I'm glad, Jan, you brought it up, because I had the same thought, you know, of possibly this area, you know, especially with what's to come and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's perfect. Excellent. So no, I'm glad to see you got a list of stuff, and again, we don't have all the members here today, so you know, we'll let Kelly know, and then we'll bring everybody to the table for that. So, awesome. Thanks, George. Beth?
Yeah, I have, along the same lines, when we were doing our cleanup, I was walking on the south side on the main trail, on the south side of Maxwell Lake, and here comes a guy behind me with a full-on trap. That's the kind of trap I would use to catch long-toed salamander larvae, like for work. And so I said, oh, what you got there? He's, oh, I'm catching minnows, feeding to my pets. Oh, you know, are they minnows or sticklebacks? And says, oh, you can catch minnows anywhere, no problem. It's like, we don't have minnows, they're sticklebacks. And then what else? Like, and he kept walking. He obviously did not want to talk about it. And he waited, and I asked him something else. It was another throwaway line. So I think what we want to look at here, I do have a phone call out to fisheries biologist in Edson just to see, you know, he's, oh, you can trap minnows wherever, whatever, but you gotta know what minnows are. And he's just feeding to his pets, like, come on. Anyway, what that spurred me on, I've got a question just to fish, just for my own, like, to the fisheries biologist, so I understand whatever legal implications they may have or not have. But I think we've talked about as some kind of conservation designation for the boardwalk. And to me, whatever it is, like we really, it is a natural area. We love it because it's a natural area, but we're gonna have to work hard to keep it a natural area. Then a conservation designation may give it that sort of, this is what this area is. And I know we've talked about that before, but I would like to see that on that future agenda. Because that was kind of like, I was just shocked. It's like, that's a fun, it was baited. He had bread in the bottom of it. It was like, goodness me. So, and I've seen that kind of stuff before, like, but this was like pretty obvious. And then I guess along those same lines, like we're talking about, programming would be nice, all of that, but just before COVID, like we had a lot of tour buses from Jasper, like I think at some point, whether it's this group or later on, I don't know, but how much use is too much? Like, we love the place to death, so how do we might have to deal with that as this committee, you know, if you start getting tour buses again, nobody liked that, that wasn't appropriate, this is a local thing, but visitors are welcome, so there is that kind of balance, like too much, when is that? So I'm not sure when that comes up, but that might be an agenda item at some point. in the future as well, and I think an important one. And there's ways of handling that, but you know, it might be an issue for this group to deal with at some point.
Well, I agree, the conservation designation, I had this conversation, Heather and I just, this last, because I wasn't part of the committee at the time, but I remember watching the video and hearing it, so Heather, do you wanna quickly speak to that? To the conversation, what the thoughts were on that? Okay, it was that I think what we were really looking for is the FRIA thing and getting started with it. And then, yes, I think this is a perfect
That's right.
again time for bringing to June and
That's right, yes.
being part of the strat plan to what is the appetite for the group to go that route, which my thought, and I could be totally off base, but with the conversation of a conservation designation might bring into what you're talking about of traffic and things like that, right? And so I think there's a great opportunity to have that kind of conversation combined. And so that's, I think, something that we can have in June meeting, tasking our new administrative support to looking into what do we need to do to set up and have that discussion of a conservation to bring to September and possibly, you know, because I'm sure there's groups that we need to get in touch with and things like that. So I think that's very valid, I think for sure, yeah. Especially too, because we're gonna put so much money and effort into, you know, improving to get it back, we wanna make sure we keep it, so, yeah. No, I appreciate that, Beth. Any other, I mean, the minnow thing, I don't know, I mean, my mindset too is called Fish and Wildlife, because I don't think that's okay, in a wetland area, it's not like going up to Jarvis and get minnows, it's, you know, it's a wetland, so plus you said, they're not minnows, they're sticklebacks, so. Yeah, I don't, but that would help in that area too, yes, sir.
Beth, I think that's gonna be really important. So obviously our focus for the wayfinding is first to get the distances out there, making sure that people aren't getting lost, right? But we are also gonna be updating a lot of the other signage that's out there. So when we go to do the big kind of entry signs and redo the maps, I wonder if it will be, well, I don't wonder, I know it will be beneficial to kind of have you remind us of all of these things that you've seen, like salamanders being taken away. The same with, you know, what people think are minnows, because then we can do a little bit of education on that signage, reminding people you can't take things out of here.
Mhm.
They live here,
Yeah.
don't kidnap them.
If they're home, yeah,
Exactly.
we have an interpretive sign saying, don't call me minnow.
Right.
Yes, it's out there.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think that it's important, because people just do things without thinking, but yeah, and so you have to work at it.
And we can, you know, bolster the pamphlets and things like that that are given out of the visitor information center, so that stuff hasn't been touched since I think 2016-ish. So it does need updating. Yeah.
My thought is, what pets does he have that?
Right?
You keep them, so anyway.
Probably fit,
Yeah.
like big thing
Yeah.
in a tank
I
or
don't know, it's just
something.
getting my-
Yeah,
That's a side.
I was just kind of like, you know, it's sort of, it's hard sometimes. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we're all on the same page with how we're moving forward in the June meeting, so. Heather, do you have anything for roundtable? What you have? Okay, I just have for myself, we just received, and I think it's appropriate. So William sent an email, I'm not sure if everybody saw it yet, he wasn't able to be here this evening, but he is also putting his resignation in for the committee. He just does not have the capacity time-wise for work to make the meetings. He's generally on call 24/7 and he just can't make it. So with that, we will now have a spot to fill for the Beaver Boardwalks committee. So if anyone knows anybody who would be interested in joining, I'm sure administration will be putting that out there, obviously, but a heads up, let them know and how to apply. They just phone the town office. Is that how it will work, Heather, or what, how it will work?
There's a link on the Beaver Boardwalk page.
Okay.
Once I connect with legislative services and communications, they'll push out the columns with a link and they'll be taken right to the form where they can apply, that gets sent in. And then as soon as we have a couple, we will bring them to council for voting.
Okay,
First Nations.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't stated, so
Oh, yeah.
just so that people
Yeah.
don't go out there and start.
Right, yeah.
right, thank you, Bjorn, for
Indigenous.
clarifying that.
Indigenous.
Yeah. So we just want to thank William for his time on the Beaver Boardwalk and committee and wish him luck, and then we'll start advertising for that. But if anybody knows an Indigenous member, then please do so. Question though. If I'm not mistaken, Kelly
Yes.
is Indigenous.
Okay, well, we can discuss, maybe I'll give Kelly a call, we can always.
Yeah.
Swap her out, but we would have to do that in council because we would want that individual recognized for the role on the committee.
Yeah,
But that's easy enough. That's
and that is, it
administrative.
just, yeah, that's all, but I just had that thought, yeah, so. Other than that, for roundtable, I do wanna put a kudos out there and to Chad and his group, the town of Hinton had a longtime service award, supper last week. Chad's crew had a number of people, dedicated
Nice.
people, it's been what, 5-10 years, I think, what was it?
There was a 5 and a 10.
10-year, yeah, so it was really nice, but I think, and on that note, which isn't part of this group, but Eva Arsenault had got her 45th year with the town award. I actually think she's been 46.
Yeah.
It just, that's when but she has been the longest standing
Ever.
ever in the town of Hinton and had many hats. So I thought that was pretty amazing. Yeah, so just some really good recognitions that were happening that evening, so.
Did Chad get a recognition
Me?
for all your hard work? Yeah.
No, this was,
I was.
yeah, it's just service, I think it's 5, 10,
Oh,
15,
I
20,
see.
it's the service.
I got another year. before I get it. I'd like to give recognition to Chad for his.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I see.
Absolutely, so. Other than that, that's all I have for roundtable, however, I should have another one, and. Beth, has made a request, and I don't think this needs to be a motion or well, it can be, but we can do it tonight. The time of the meeting, we had moved to 6. But where the question or wondering is the possibility of changing it to 6:30 as an option. So I thought I'd just bring that to the group this evening. On any objections or.
I just think that Kelly
It was
was part of the
Okay.
resident, so I think we should wait till she's.
Yeah, so what we'll do then is we'll throw that on the agenda for June.
Okay.
And we'll keep it at 6 for June. Yeah, we'll have that discussion. And it's a good timing too, because then we can into September then to do when we start up again, what the times are, so.
Start up again, that reminds me, are we taking time off?
July.
July and August, yeah. Oh, yeah, you weren't here last meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we are taking July and August.
I wouldn't have passed that. I love our meetings so much.
Now, well, we always have the opportunity to have special meetings if we need.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but we have that option at our disposal as well, so. Okay, if there's nothing else for roundtable, then we're gonna move on to our next meeting, which is June 12th, 2024. Let's just make sure. Good. We're all good with that date? Good. All right, and then a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that one.
Trevor, motions to adjourn. All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone.